Hey everyone! Alright, today's video is going to be over adding and subtracting with positive and negative fractions. Your objective: I will be able to add and subtract positive and negative fractions and apply the process to real life. So let's review. Anytime we add or subtract fractions, we have to have a common denominator. So that denominator needs to be the same on each fraction. And the least common denominator is the same thing as finding the least common multiple of the numbers. So for example, if we have 1/2 plus 1/3, we are trying to find the least common multiple of 2 and 3. And if we were to actually list out the multiples of those numbers, we would see that 6 is the smallest one they have in common. And then we would just write equivalent fractions, and then we would perform the operation on the numerator only, and the denominator would stay the same. Alright, keep in mind that when we're adding, if the numbers have the same sign, we add and keep the same sign. Different signs means we're going to subtract the absolute values, and then we're going to take the sign of the quote-unquote bigger number. If we're subtracting with negatives, keep in mind that we just add the opposite. And you don't have to write this down because it's in green, and you should have this in your notes already. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is if we see any mixed numbers, we want to make them improper fractions. Then we'll find the common denominator. Then we rewrite the problem with equivalent fractions, solve the numerator using integer rules, and then we will simplify the answer. If it's improper, we need to make it a mixed number. And of course, we need to reduce. Alright, example 1, we have negative 1/4 plus negative 1/6. So we have different denominators. So the least common multiple between 4 and 6 would be 12. So I'm going to rewrite the problem, but I want each fraction to have a denominator of 12 instead. Now on this fraction, if we change 4 to 12, we would have multiplied by 3. Whatever we do to the denominator, we do to the numerator. So that would become a 3. Over here, from 6 to 12, we would multiply by 2. So we do the same thing to the numerator, and 1 times 2 is 2. Now remember, whenever we operate, it's only with the numerator. So the denominator stays the same. And then if we circle what's in the numerator, we're going to ignore the denominator right now. We have a negative 3 plus a negative 2. We're adding negatives, so we add like normal, and then we keep the sign of the add-ins. So this would be negative 5/12, and that cannot be reduced. Alright, example 2, we have 3/5 plus negative 1/10. We have different denominators. The least common multiple of 5 and 10 would be 10. So I need a fraction over 10 plus a negative fraction over 10. Now I'm sure you've noticed the denominator is already 10 in this fraction, so we don't have to change anything. We can just copy it down. Now to get from 5 to 10, we have to multiply by 2. So we do the same thing to the numerator, and 3 times 2 is 6. Alright, again, I know the denominator will be 10. And then I'm going to circle what's in the numerator. Make sure you include the addition or subtraction symbols and the negatives. So I would read this as 6 plus negative 1. So we have a positive plus a negative, so we're going to subtract the absolute values. 6 minus 1 is 5. And then the absolute value of 6 is higher than the absolute value of 1. 6 is positive, so this 5 should be positive. And 5 over 10, that can be reduced. We can divide both of those by 5, and we get 1/2. Alright, example 3, we have negative 1 1/3 plus 2 1/9. So we have mixed numbers, and we want to make them improper first. So remember, we take the denominator and multiply it by the whole number, and then we add what's in the numerator. Because this is saying that we have one group of thirds plus one left over, So 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. Now this is a negative fraction, so I want to make sure, a negative mixed number, so I want to make sure I have a negative improper fraction that I'm writing down. 2 and 1/9. 9 times 2 is 18, plus 1 is 19. And remember, when it's improper, you keep the same denominator that the mixed number had. All right, now we do not have common denominators, so we need to do that. The least common denominator for 3 and 9 would be 9. This already has a 9 as the denominator, so I simply copy it down. 3 times 3 is 9, so I do the same thing to the numerator, and we get a 12 here. I know the denominator is going to stay a 9. And then in the numerator, we have negative 12 plus 19. We have a negative plus a positive, so we're going to subtract the absolute values. So 19 minus 12 would be 7. The absolute value of 19 is higher than the absolute value of 12. 19 is positive, so this stays positive. All right, now let's talk about some subtraction. So in example 4, we have 5 over 6 minus 7 over 8. Again, we do not have common denominators. So the least common multiple of 6 and 8 would actually be 24. So I'm going to have something over 24 minus something over 24. 6 times 4 is 24, and 5 times 4 is 20. 8 times 3 is 24, and 7 times 3 is 21. I know that the denominator is still going to be 24, and I'm going to circle what I see in the numerator. So we have 20 minus 21. We have a positive number minus a bigger positive number. We can still add the opposite here. So if I change this to addition and make this a negative 21, we have a positive plus a negative. So I'm going to subtract the absolute values. 21 minus 20 is 1. And the absolute value of negative 21 would be bigger than the absolute value of 20. So this is going to be a negative fraction. Example 5, we have 3/10 minus a negative 1/6. We need a common denominator. So the least common multiple of 10 and 6 would be 30. Right, 10 times 3 gives us 30, so 3 times 3 is 9. And then we have 6 times 5 is 30. 1 times 5 is 5. Remember, the denominator is going to stay the same. And now in the numerator, I have 9 minus a negative 5. So we're going to add the opposite. So we're going to add a positive 5. 9 plus 5 is 14. And this can be reduced. Both of these numbers can be divided by 2. And we get 7 over 15. All right, and here's the last example we're going to do together. We have a subtraction problem that has mixed numbers, so I want to make these improper. So 7 times 1 is 7, plus 1 is 8. And remember, this is a negative mixed number, so it would be a negative improper fraction. I want to carry down everything else. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. This is negative, so it would be negative 4/3. I need a common denominator. The least common multiple of 7 and 3 would be 21. So I'm going to have a negative fraction over 21 minus a negative fraction over 21. 7 to 21, we multiply by 3. 8 times 3 is 24. From 3 to 21, we would multiply by 7. And 4 by 7 is 28. Denominator stays the same. Now I'm going to take what's in the numerator and I'm going to circle it. So we have negative 24 minus a negative 28. So since it's subtraction, we are going to add the opposite. And now I have negative 24 plus a positive 28. Negative plus a positive means we're just going to subtract. 28 minus 24 is 4. And the absolute value of a positive 28 is greater than the absolute value of a negative 24, so our answer would be positive. And this cannot be reduced. All right, now it is time for you to try, so make sure that you show all of your work and answer both of these questions in your spiral, and I will see you next class day.